Hello, everybody, and welcome to Inspire the Podcast with myself, Nicola Wills. I have got a very, very exciting guest on for you who just fills my heart with so much love and joy. His name is David O'Reilly. So David is a rather well-known face in Ireland, where he's a panelist on the Elaine show on Virgin Media One, and then became the show's regular showbiz correspondent. And David is now a regular contributor to 2FM, one of Ireland's most loved radio stations. David graduated with the prestigious Stephen Mear Award. Shortly after graduation, he made his West End debut in Greece at Piccadilly Theatre before heading on to a UK tour of the show. Since then, David has played Cecil Graham in the West End cast of Lady Windermere's Fan, directed by the incredible Kathy Burke, before joining the Catherine Tate Show, love that show, live in Australia and New Zealand. He also appeared in the Book of Mormon in the West End and the West End cast of Everybody's Talking About Jamie as like a virgin before heading on to tour LA and play at the Asran Theatre. You will catch David on TV as well as theatre, appearing in BBC's Nova Jones, Netflix Christmas on Mistletoe Farm, Hulu's TV hit series Better Things, and the much-loved Benidorm and daytime TV soap Doctors. So, David O'Reilly, welcome to the show, gorgeous. Hi, honey queen.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. God, just make me sound very important there.
Honey, you are very, very important. But look, this podcast, what it's really here to show is that this is the bit that people see. That think, oh my God, he's so successful. Wow, he's done so well. But the stories behind that, the journey that it took to get there, to me, that is the interesting point. That is the part where, like, the gems are made, right? And I just know, I've spoken, so I know your story. And I would just love for you to share with us all, where did it all begin? Like, tell us kind of your years, age 10 and younger.
Yeah, so I'm Irish, in case anyone can't hear, which you will do, because I've been back in Ireland, so whenever I'm back in Ireland, my accent gets very thick. Anyway, I digress. Back in Ireland, I was born in Dublin to the most amazing parents. I have one sibling, 4 years younger than me, 4.5. Grew up in a big family, big Irish family, lots of cousins, lots of aunties, uncles, second cousins, this one, that one. You'd walk down and you'd be related, you didn't even know, that kind of vibe. Really great kind of community. It takes a village to raise your children vibe, and that was a really great upbringing. Mum and Dad were from an area called Ballyfermot, a very working class area, but the heart of gold, real kind, community-led area in Dublin, where people would give you the shirt off their back if you needed it, that kind of vibe. So I definitely feel like that had such a massive effect on Mum and Dad, and then therefore on me and my brother with regards to then when Mum and Dad bought their own house in another kind of working class area in Dublin called Kilnamanor. They too had a great community spirit on the road there before we ended up moving to another area in Dublin, and that's where we remain today, very close to my mum and dad, and my brother and my family. And personally, that would be it from a performing kind of vibe. School, I didn't have a particularly enjoyable time at school. I didn't have friends. I was bullied horrendously towards the last half of primary school. And I talk about this now as, it's part of my coat of armour. I've spoken at length about my issues with bullying in the past, and I've had to really just do a lot of working right up until maybe even a year ago about building up my defense, but also not defense mechanism, if that makes sense. So just kind of how I can protect myself from the sad rituals and trauma that comes with being bullied, if that makes sense. Hopefully I'm not waffling too much. Anyway, so that's where it started. I got into a drama class in school, and I think that was because it mainly, I needed an outlet at school, with a teacher called Mr. McGurk, and he was the saving grace, really. Like, I was able to do drama class at school. I couldn't believe it. I loved it. My mom, I remember my mom bringing me into the class first, and that was it. And then I kind of when I went to secondary school, I was in what I call tunnel mode, and it was just get through school without drawing any attention to yourself, head down, eyes forward, and not draw any attention to yourself. And of course, that's hard when you're going home, you've got a big personality, but, you have to protect yourself. And I didn't know I was having to protect myself, if that made sense. So I didn't do any of the drama classes or anything like that. I remember once I committed to maybe doing one of the school musicals, and then I pulled out because I got scared. This was in secondary school. But then two of my cousins were going to a drama class in the area that we live in now in Dublin. And my auntie said to my mum that we're joining, and my mum enrolled us in this class, and that was it. It's a school called Westside Performing Arts. And I went there, and I had finally found what I loved, what I wanted to do. I couldn't believe it. I was living this dream. We were dancing, we were singing, we were acting. And it was a really good school, and it still is. And I'm very fortunate that I go back and teach there now. And Elizabeth had created a really incredible kind of school that had the fingers in the pulse of what was happening with performing arts, and would always go. She'd always be 3 or 4 steps ahead of everyone else in her lane, getting people over and stuff like that. Yeah, so that performing wise, that's where I started. That's where I got up to, and that would be my life in Dublin up until I moved over to England. Yeah.
And then, so at what age did you move over to England?
I was 19. So in Ireland you have to do your A levels. It's part of you have 6 years of secondary school. So I did 6 years of secondary school. Thought I wanted to be a religion and history teacher. Could you imagine me teaching religion and history? Those poor students.
And talking about religion, sorry, David. So just touching on religion. So in where you're from is a heavily Catholic area, right?
Yeah, Ireland I grew up in a very Catholic country during a very transitional time with the church and state. So yeah, I did. Yeah.
And how did that kind of affect you, like especially within your teenage years, and realizing more about who you were? Did you have like guilt within that?
Oh yeah. I go to therapy now, and I'm very on with that, and I talk, and there's a thing that we identified in my sessions called Catholic guilt, and it's a real thing. You don't talk about yourself. Maybe I even experienced it today with you a little bit when you sent me my biog and I went back to you with a note. It's all that thing of, we grow up trying not to enjoy any sort of enjoyment. You get Catholic guilt, And of course, when you're gay, when you don't know you're gay, but you do know you're gay, that's really hard because there was no representation on television for me growing up. I didn't see gay men as presenters. I didn't see gay men as actors. I didn't see, and if they were the butt of the jokes, and people would, and I'd hear negative comments about them. So there was no representation for me, certainly in my bubble that I lived in on television or anything like that. So, it was really hard to my journey of coming out took a little bit while longer maybe than others because of the Catholic guilt of the thing of, and the crazy thing is that I knew my parents would never take it badly, but it still doesn't make it easier because you're constantly thinking about how will this make them feel? How will everyone else react if I come out? And so, any sort of unadulterated kind of praise or joy or anything like that, and people are like, oh, there's 2 phrases in Ireland, and they're used quite lightheartedly, but I was thinking about them today. And May Fainer is me. So a May Fainer, they call you. It's an Irish, a May Fainer. You'd be Nicola's a May Fainer. It's her. Or the other one is they've got notions. So if people would say about me and you, oh, they've got notions. They're thinking beyond their means and stuff like that. And that's very much the kind of that was among society, and that came from the church. That came from the church wanting to keep. The church raking in money off working class people who could barely afford to put food on the table, like, you know, and there was so much to answer for with regards to women and children and the mental, physical, and abuse that has ensued on people right up until the 90s, early 2000s. You know, it's wrong. And the separation of church and state is so vitally important for countries like Ireland, where we were so at the behest of what the church decided was right and wrong. So, you know, it definitely did have a massive effect on me, more than I actually probably thought so. And, you know, I was christened, I made my communion, I had my confirmation, I was an altar boy, we went to church on Sundays until my parents, they had their own issues with the church, and then we kind of pulled away. But I remember even, like, God forbid, and I hope they laugh at this now, they're brought up in heaven, but if we were going to my nanny's and granddad's, like, my mum and dad, like, what mass did we go to? I would be like, we went to 11 o'clock. We didn't go to mass, but if they asked us what mass we went to, we had to lie. And it kind of became a bit of a joke, but you would seriously offend people, you know, if you didn't go to mass. But it just wasn't the place for us. And you know, my brother is also gay. There's two brothers. We're both gay, and you know, we both felt the effects of growing up in a society that was heavily influenced by the Catholic Church. Thankfully, it's changed now, and we're moving forward. I say that we have a couple of regressions in society in Ireland at the moment. However, we're moving forward as a society and just learning to kind of integrate gay existence into a society, trans existence, LGBTQI+A existence, because there's no debate about that. You know, you can debate whatever you want, but trans people exist, gay people exist, non-binary people exist. They're here. So you can have a debate, but your debate and your bigotry can go over there, because that's never going to stop the fact that these people exist. And I have to say, Ireland is the heart and soul of Ireland, has always been and always will be the kindness of its people. I honestly believe that. And I think that's what I like to focus on, you know, about my country. That's what, you know, where I'm from is the people do. There is so much kindness and love in Ireland.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
And I just want to say that because I don't want it to come across that I would ever be negative, because I love Ireland. It's my home. You know,
of course.
But that was my experience growing up.
Yeah, and I completely appreciate that. How do you, obviously, you know, you're a well-known face in Ireland. You know, people have seen you on the TV, they've listened to you on the radio. If you walk around, you know, do you ever get any like hate, you know, from people who necessarily haven't kind of opened up their mind yet to, you know, us all?
I mean, listen, I'm a larger guy who is gay. And you know, I when I used to do the showbiz correspondency for Elaine, every now and then I'd get a tweet tagging me in it saying about, you know, how annoying I was. And I mean, that goes with the territory. Everybody who puts themselves out there is going to be burnt, because there's people out there who want to hurt people, and that's unfortunately the society that we live in. Everyone's become a social media warrior, you know, and it's like, it's wild. And I definitely think it comes through the early days of reality competition television. Do you remember where judges would just be nasty for the sake of it? And I'm guilty of it. We're all guilty of it. But I remember my brother and I were walking down. Was it this Christmas or last? Or was it his birthday maybe? And my brother works in fashion. My brother's very stylish. He pushes the boundaries. He's so fantastic at finding bespoke pieces, and he had on a jumpsuit that was a collab between Stella McCartney and Adidas. And we were walking down, and there was a whole group of men and women looking and pointing at him, and I just stopped and I said, "What the fuck are you doing?" Excuse me, if you can't use that kind of language, I'll just say, "What the hell are you looking at?"
Love it.
You know, and they got embarrassed. I said, "Do you know how you're making him feel?" because you're pointing at him because he's wearing a jumpsuit. Oh, no, it's not good enough. Stop it. Just stop.
Yeah.
A fleeting moment of humor for you is going to be days of trauma for him trying to overcome. Oh God, you know, even if it's 5 minutes or 30 seconds of trauma, you forget about it, he won't. Stop. I was so angry because, you know what, I can almost take it myself, but when you come from my brother, oh, yeah.
Yeah. Which I completely understand. And it's also like, you know, if I see someone who is, let's say, dressed or behaving in a way that is extra, shall we say, you just look at that and I'm like, oh my God, that is amazing. Look how cool he is. Look at the effort that he's made. Look at that outfit. It should be celebrated. Like, you know, blending in and being beige and trying to be like everybody else is what is killing people, you know, like, you know, the unkindness, because, you know, and 9 times out of 10, the people that are actually saying that and pointing just wish in their heart that they could be so brave to wear those kind of things. But
well,
they,
exactly.
You know, they want to be that, but they just feel so suppressed by what they think they should be doing that they're pretending and living someone else's life. Obviously not all the time, but it's that like, if I just stay little, no one will notice me. If I just laugh and mock other people, then it just makes me look like I'm just part of this community. And I feel, especially with social media, that is being spoken about and being open, you know, we're opening up and we're sharing our experiences so that we can, those people who do feel like I have to be small can go, do you know what? I was once that bitchy, horrible person. It's only because I was jealous. I wanted to be that colourful and confident, you know, and then they're coming out of their shells. But you know, obviously it is going to be years, decades, you know, and if not, we won't ever eradicate that. But it's almost, you know, for your brother,
of course,
you know, that one moment could change the shape of his life, you know, career. He could think, God, you know, this is too much. Maybe I am doing this, you know, I'm so foolish for thinking I can have a career in fashion. Put your head back down, you know, like, and that's the thing, you know, well, especially with, it's just, it blows my mind that it is still happening. And especially with all, you know, especially the celebrity suicides and death, it's like, wake up, people. You know,
and this is the thing is that I'm not excusing myself from any of that. We've all been guilty of, you know, with insecurities brings out, you know, hurt people, you know, that saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
However, taking a step back, and I definitely find this the older I've gotten, I'm 35 now, that sometimes you really just don't need to say anything at all. Because, and I get, but like my brother did have a wobble after that because something else happened, and I remember him getting upset, and that was very hard, you know. And those people are probably, well, they wouldn't have forgotten me shouting at them, but they, for them it was a fleeting moment, and as I said, for him it's much more than that. So, you know, for gay people, we often express ourselves. For anybody in the queer community, LGBTQIA, expressing ourselves through fashion and clothing and culture is so important, because we had 16, 18, 20, however many years of suppressing that. Imagine we are suppressing ourselves the whole time. You know, I didn't dress the way I would have wanted to growing up. I would have loved to have on, you know, a pink tracksuit maybe, or maybe one day I'd like to have a big army boots, you know. All these sort of things that, you know, growing up maybe I would have liked, but I didn't, because I went along with what everyone else was wearing, what I should be wearing. I mean, my mum and dad always dressed me very well, and, you know, we were always very fashion forward. But certainly as I got to a teenager, I definitely know I suppressed that. So when you're an adult and you have freedom and you have that confidence to wear what you want, and it'll take one person, that whole stack of cards could come falling down again. So, you know, I know it may sound simple and fickle to other people, but for people who have been so suppressed for so many years, expressing themselves is such an important tool in feeling like ourselves.
Absolutely. Oh, I just love this so much. Thank you so much. So now, like, you've gone through your teenage years, you've discovered that your love of dancing and drama and singing, and then you moved to London. So did you go to a stage school in London? What happened there?
Yeah, I did. I went to a 3-year musical theatre course and the college no longer is open anymore. And that was a really formative 3 years. I kind of found myself again in an environment that was like a pressure cooker, in the sense of, you know, the training. You know, we wanted to kind of, nothing more than we all wanted to get to the end of that and just work, you know. And I learned so many lessons about myself there and others and behaviors and so many different things. And I graduated. I was very lucky. I graduated. I went into a West End show within 6 months, and that was beyond any of my wildest dreams. You know, to appear in Greece in the West End. The last cast that ever was at the Piccadilly Theatre of the production that had been going since 1993 when I first opened at the Dominion. These things, I couldn't believe it. Like, this was so beyond my expectations. Like, I couldn't believe that this has happened. Like, I'm actually working in the field that I'd chosen to. And that was an incredible opportunity. And, you know, my training, I was very lucky. I had some incredible teachers. I had some arseholes as well, but I had some incredible teachers.
At that time, did you have any like idols or mentors or people that you looked up to?
I did. I mean, Flick Swan was the reason why I ended up going to drama college. She was auditioning over in Dublin with my stage school for this college, and she put me there, and I still talk to her now. She's a real support and rocket support. We have the exact same birthday, and we might never speak to each other for a few months, but we always stay in contact. And she was just incredible. She's like a West End legend, and to have her support, her guidance and her nurturing, that was just incredible. I love Flick Swan. Also Damien Delaney, who I had a bit of a connection with as well, because he was Irish. He was from Cork, and he, again, better say what, I'd be quicker saying what shows he wasn't in the West End than the ones he was in. Michelle Blair, the course leader, he, you know, very much took me under her wing, taught me all about the best qualities of longevity with regards to networking and stuff like that. Mark Smith, Stephen Meir, you know, I met so many amazing tutors that were just Norma Atala, so many amazing people there and tutors, and also the women who worked in the office. They were really formative in my life there and in my training. You know, when you live away from home, it's very hard to be sometimes by yourself, and to have that, what became a family to me for 3 years, that was very important. So yeah, that was my training, and those people definitely played a huge part in forming me for how I went on.
And talk to me about your love of working class, fabulous women.
I remember when I was we went on a religious retreat, of course, at school, and I got picked. And I remember getting picked by the brother who was doing the readings, because everyone, when I got picked, all the boys in class would, and I remember feeling really embarrassed and like, oh, David's been picked, and it's like, oh God. I was like, so anyway, he kind of corrected, don't do that, lads, come on. And then he gave me a reading. He said, you're very close to female members of your family and females in general. And I really have been in my career. I've had such a strong connection with women, and funny women and strong women, you know, so many women in my career and I've worked with, and names, and small names, big names. But I just love the humor, the self-deprecation, the authenticity of women. I have such an honor and value for how the strength that it takes to be a woman, and particularly nowadays. You know, and I've been very lucky to work with a lot of them, and a lot of amazing women. You know, so yeah. I just love, and I love when I love writing stories for women as well. I think that's one of my favourite things to do is writing stories for women. I tend to always go to that. It seems to be my default when I'm writing this to create a woman of a certain age.
Love that. And then, so you were in Book of Mormon, and something really terrible happened in that time. Can you just share with us or what happened?
Yeah, 2016, and I've been very open with this, and for anyone who follows me or has listened to other maybe podcasts or stuff that I've done, I've been very open about it for the reason that if anyone had been quite as open, hopefully, as I was around the time that happened to me, then maybe that would have been a bit of a crutch that I could have lent on. So I had a bit of a breakdown in 2016. I had reached my capacity. My mental health was suffering, and I was in a deep depression. My days would consist of staying in bed until 4 o'clock, getting up, going to buy food, go to work, repeat, and that was repeat, mixed with the deepest rooted anxiety. And what I didn't know at the time was a deep-rooted OCD, clinical OCD, which I didn't know I had. But as soon as I went to therapy and I begun to take medication, and the medication is to rationalize everything in your head. And it was really interesting because I was surrounded by people at work who were able to offer such incredible advice and valuable advice about mental health battles that they'd been through. And a company manager at the time, Lucy, who I'll be forever grateful for, who was the most incredible woman who I adore. She said to me, when you have a cold or you have a flu, you take medication. She said, and that's all it is, that you're just not well at the moment. And she, I wanted to just hide. She made me come into work. I only took 3 days off, and she's like, I promise you, I know this is hard right now, but as soon as you get back into a bit of normality, this'll get easier. And it did. And I think, accepting that you may have an issue, but reaching that point where you are so sad, and at one time contemplated, is it even worth continuing on? That was scary. So I knew I had to go and speak to someone, and I did. And I went to my doctor, and he referred me to another health practitioner, and I am 6-7 years the other side of it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7 years on the other side of it. And depression is not a bad mood, but when you're feeling sad. A depression is, as Denise Welsh is a good friend of mine, she says, depression is when you feel nothing. It's when everything is depressed. Yeah, there's nothing, and everything is just dark, and everyone has her, she's talked about it very openly. Hers is a chemical imbalance. Mine is the other one, whereas my anxiety and my OCD had led to just blowout. So yeah, that was my probably one of my lowest points in life, but also I'm grateful as well, because I think it helped me clear out a lot of stuff in my head that I was able to go, okay, and find comfort in other things. So, and it definitely gave me some perspective and stuff like that. So, and the importance of and realizing the importance of us all taking time out to recharge the battery, and knowing that burnout is a real thing, knowing that we should never use mental health as an excuse for laziness or anything like that. I think that minimizes mental health altogether. I think acknowledging it and better education on mental health will help people. And yeah, so it was an extremely horrible and hard time, but also a real learning curve for me all around.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, to the outside world, right? You're in a West End show, like that's what people dream of. And so did you almost feel as well, like a bit of like, oh, I shouldn't be feeling like this because I'm living the dream?
100%. I had a episode of Benidorm just about to be released that I starred in. I was in the biggest West End show in the West End. I was recording a Disney cartoon during the days. I was earning more money than I ever could have imagined in my life. I had presents there for my birthday that had been sent. I didn't even open them. That was how, like, I wasn't even going near them. Like, that's, it was just, my life ceased to exist. So, and you say to yourself, what have I got to be upset about, There's people out there going through some real hardships and trauma, and I didn't realize I wasn't well. I wasn't well. The chemicals in my head were all over the place, I was dealing with OCD, and people think that OCD is, that saying, oh God, I'm so OCD. I like to clean and I like to have everything arranged. That's not OCD. OCD is much bigger than that. It's a deeper, more complex issue, about rituals and irrational behaviors and catastrophizing and thoughts that everything is going to go wrong. And then if you do this, then nothing will go wrong. If you tap it, or if you make if you repeat the sentence in your head 8 times, it goes so much deeper. And all these rituals that happen.
And were you doing that kind of stuff on the show? Were you doing things?
Yeah, I had, one was, if I rub my nose like that, I'd have to slap my hand, and then I'd make everyone in my dressing room slap my hand. So at one point, yeah, it was ridiculous. I was actually infringing on them. Like, it was becoming, when I'd walk home, the wheelie bins would be at the end of our road. I would rearrange them every single night. No matter what, how dark it was, how late it was, if I was going home and those bins were that, I was rearranging them. I would, if I was going a certain route in the house, I'd have to go by the downstairs toilet and tap it 3 times. If I got into bed and it didn't feel right, I'd have to get out and get back in again. Stuff like that. They're the sort of things that come with OCD. Yeah. So,
and did it build up over time?
Oh God, yeah. It definitely got more. It got worse. Like, it definitely ramped up and got progressively worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And what I didn't realize was that the OCD, that's why I was feeling so anxious. That's why I had that feeling in my stomach. That's why I was waking up at 4 o'clock in the morning, literally sick with nerves and anxiety. That's why. So, yeah.
Wow. And so what action did you take from there? So you went to your doctor, and then you want medication? Are you still on medication now for that?
Yeah, I am. I'm on a daily dose of sertraline. And, yeah, it is a medication that a lot of people are on, and it purely rationalizes everything. It balances the chemicals in my head and helps with my OCD. So I wouldn't do as many things now with my OCD, and everyone will be a little bit more calm, but not in the sense of on a high or anything like that. Just rationalizing the chemicals in your brains. I'm not a doctor. I don't know why or how it works. But I went to. The problem is that for mental health facility, particularly in the UK and Ireland, the facilities are woeful, and the amount of people that will be waiting so long before they can get a referral, you're talking months and months and months. Somebody might not have months. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I went private. I was in a position that I could go private. I was earning money too. Some people don't have that privilege or that luxury, and I'm glad that happened then, not now, because I don't know if I'd be able to afford to have spent all the money I did on treatments and stuff like that. But I did, and I was lucky enough that I went to a psychologist, and we worked, and I went to my therapist, and yeah, there's far more light than shadow in my life at the moment. That's not to say things go up and down with your mental health, but I've been, since 2016, it's been, and I didn't realize how many people around me were fighting the same battle.
No, and that's the thing, and that's why I love the social media for that, the opening up of actually, it's not an embarrassing thing. It's, everybody has mental health, whether that's good or bad, and it's just talking about that. I remember when I was, at stage school, looking back now, we were all absolutely in pieces and bits, and we were just trying to get through the day, and we had no help and no support, because if you dare say, do you know what, I just don't feel right about this, you you're like a joke. Like next, there's people waiting in the wings for, you know, your position. And, you know, I just think how I feel like how better my experience would have been as a performer in the industry if I had just understood what's actually going on in my mind, and how, you know, the controlling of it and the thoughts, and that there was help, and, you know, you just bumbled through, like just bumbling through and just thinking, this is just what it's like. This is just what life is like. And, you know, and thank goodness that path has changed. So David, what do you do? Do you have any like daily practices that you do to keep on top of your mental health? Like, you know, journaling, or go for a walk, or specific foods that you don't eat?
Yeah, I do. So I journal every morning as much as I can, and I do my affirmations, what I'm grateful for. I thank the universe, and I write down some jobs or tasks that I'm going to achieve that day. I also have, you know, and I have it here right now, some people use their phones. For me, it doesn't work. I have a paper diary. So everything that I do, I always write it down on my diary of what I'm doing and when I'm doing it. That really helps as well. I feel like I'm in control of it then a little bit better. With regards to, I do a full moon yoga experience in the cooler months of the year, where it's a little bit warmer. And that is, my mum does that as well, and some friends, and we go out into the beach, and this incredible lady called Jen wants this full moon experience meditation, and it's just the most incredible thing ever. You're outside on the beach in Ireland under the moon.
Wow.
And it's extraordinary. I love to do that. If I can get a yoga class in, sometimes I will. I mean, I'm not going to profess to being any sort of a yoga junkie. And then other things is I love box sets. I love a good, you know, binging box sets. If I can escape into that. I love food, obviously. I love food, and I love you know, spending more time in Ireland recently, getting out and going for lovely walks around places as well has really helped. Particularly by the sea. I don't know why. I never thought I was one of those people, but clearly I am.
Yeah, I am. Like, I feel like uneasy if I'm not near water.
Isn't that right? Isn't that really hilarious?
I'm a Pisces. I know that.
Of course.
But yeah, it's like if I'm inland, it's like as soon as it's sunny, I have to get to the sea. I've got a day off, I've got to go to the ocean, I've got to go to the lake, I've got to go somewhere. I don't know where that comes from. But yeah, it's for some people, I guess it's the mountains. I definitely know that. So it's either like the ocean or the mountains people go to. But if I envisage my like dream home and where I am, like what makes me happy, it would be like I can walk down to the beach from my house. I can see it.
Yeah. Some people like to hike, and I think some people like the water. And for me, it's the water.
Yeah, I'm definitely not a hiker. I would love to be. I love the idea, but it's just not my thing, honey. So, David, have you ever had any enough moments in your like personal life or career where you've just gone, you know what? Everything is all happening, but this enough. I just don't want this life or this situation anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I had a breakup about 3 years ago, or was it 2 years ago? I can't even remember now. And I was like, nah, I needed some time out. So I moved back to Dublin for a while because I just thought, I can't. I'm too. This has affected me too much. I'm not enjoying where I'm living at the moment. I knew I was going to be going to LA in January. I was like, I need to clock out for a few months. I'm going to go because this right now is just not working for me. I can't. And I didn't want the possibility of running into the ex. I didn't want the possibility of hearing from them, so I blocked them from my life. And that was definitely an enough moment for me, where it's like, no. I
and it's so empowering, isn't it, to do that?
It was, because people were like, what? You know, I wasn't one of those people I thought I would ever be so instinctive. I'm a very creature of habit at times. So people are like, oh my God. So yeah.
Love that. Proud of you. David, tell me, what is the best piece of advice you have ever had?
Best piece of advice. You know, we had a research client, we spoke about one, but I've actually thought of another one, and it's get ready to stay ready. You know, I love that we're always getting ready to stay ready, and that means, you know, making sure we've always got our foot on the pedal, you know, ready to take up any challenge as and when it comes. Acknowledging the much, you know, you go, actually, I can't do that, but I'm going to do this. And I got to smash it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Just that power. I thought there's something powerful. There's also another
and
one.
did someone give you that advice? Did someone specifically give you that advice?
A director called Debbie Izzet gave me that advice. She directed the Christmas film that is on Netflix. And she also directed something that I wrote called The Gays Days. And as someone who's become a friend over the years, and a dear friend, and she gave me that advice, and I thought that really resonated with me more than some of the other ones that I'd ever heard before. That one really resonated with me.
And on the flip side of that, what is the worst piece of advice you've ever been given?
Stay in your lane. Stay in my lane. Piss off. Stay in my lane.
What lane?
I built the motorway, darling. I'll be driving it all the lanes as and when I decide to. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I really feel that has changed over these years, because, you know, when I was younger, it was like you're going to be this or this, but you can't be everything. I have to think, but I want to be everything. Like, why can't I be a mom? Why can't I be an entrepreneur? Why can't I be healthy and fit? Why can't I also be a dancer? Like, I just want to be it all. And yes, it's not easy, but you can. And yeah, again, I feel social media, the positive way is open that up. Like, I am here, you are here. We're showing that, you know, do you remember the time was that, we can only be in theatre, you can't do television? It's like just stupid things like that. And you're like the pure example of like...
Right, I just think that never let somebody tell you what you can't do. Let them tell you. When someone tells me there's something I can't do, it's like a red rag to a bull. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it really well.
Yes, I love that. And I'm exactly the same. It's like, don't underestimate the wills. I should say it to people.
Thank you. Yes, love that.
Don't underestimate the wills. So, David, what is your vision for the next 5 years? Like, what you know, you're sat there, your mental health's in amazing check, you're feeling good. Obviously, you've just finished, what we didn't mention, I think you've got one more show left to do, a Buff, which is your Two more. Oh my God. So David is right in the middle of his one-man show, which is called Buff. And I haven't seen it because obviously I live here in Ibiza, but it is a fringe theatre, and the reviews are next level. I really feel like looking on and like trusting my intuition. I really feel that looking on, like this is like the next chapter of your career is starting. What do you think?
Thank you. I mean, I'm blown away. When I got asked to do the play, I knew I had to do it. I've never connected with dialogue or script. Ben Fenson wrote an incredible script, and that I really resonated with. I could relate to it. It is powerful and funny and tragic all in equal measure. And Scott Lacrosse, who directed it, is such a visionary, and the simplicity in his direction that has such simplicity but huge impacts on the show is actually quite mind-blowing. And then Julian, who did the music, and then Jordan, who did the assistant director, just seemed like the most incredible team and a really powerful team. And getting to do it was something that I think surprised people. I genuinely don't do jobs unless I really want to do them, and I really wanted to do this, and I'm glad I did. We did 3 shows 2 weeks ago, and the reviews and the response from the audience have been very overwhelming. You know what it's like, you put yourself out there and you hope for the best, and sometimes it's hit and sometimes it's missed, and the audiences have connected to this piece because it's a piece that is about a plus-size guy in his 30s navigating his way through dating apps, but it's universal to so many people and in so many different walks of life. So, it's been a real passion project, and I hope this is not the end of it. I hope we get to do it in many different genres in the coming years. I would be honoured to do it again. I would be grateful to do it again. And yeah, it's just been an amazing experience to be part of, and in this extraordinary venue under Waterloo that I didn't even know existed. So yeah, it's been extraordinary, and I'm very grateful.
Yeah. And so what's next? Buff finishes. What is your vision? Let's not be Irish. Let's not be Irish. Let's say you've got your vision board of like what you want for the next 5 years and you're going to manifest that. What in your wildest dreams would that be?
You know what? I want to continue to diversify my skill set. You know, I've made a career of putting many fingers in different pies. So whether it be television, musical theatre, straight theatre, fringe theatre, pantomime, film, animation, producing one-off evenings in the West End with, you know, Kathy and Kathy Burke, Jennifer Saunders and Judy Dench, Phil T. Williams and Sammy Williams. Getting to do those has all been so fulfilling and creatively diverse that I want to do more of that. I will do more work in TV and film. I want to spend more time sitting under the sun in the beautiful elements. I want to take time to shut off. I want to do solo trip, maybe one time just to sit on the beach for 2 weeks by myself and just really take stock. I want to spend more time with family. I want to continue to have the most amazing friendships. I want to find financial stability. That's very important for me now at 35. And I want to continue on the path that I have been down this year of, you know, again, like I said, diversify my skill set into radio and television in scripted and unscripted formats.
Amazing. Do you get nervous? Like when you go for an audition? Yeah. And how do you deal with that?
I don't know. I used to give the people on the other side of the table so much more power, and I don't mean that in a disrespectful way. I mean that in a way of I have to talk myself out of the, you know, some jobs are so important and you want them, but if you play them up like that in your head, you fucking put yourself in a place of absolute anxiety and trauma. Anxiety and nervousness.
Yeah.
So, you know, you just have to talk yourself down off a ledge sometimes. Do some things that are nice before, after. You know, the hardest thing about at the moment is I'm doing self-tapes, and it's you send the self-tape off and then begin this process of waiting, and that's hard. So, and that's when I get nervous. Like, it's not even before it; it's kind of after it as well. You get nervous that if I get a rejection or I get a no, which, you know, you kind of become a bit, you build up a bit of a, what you'll say, resilience towards that sort of, you know, the no's over the years. But yeah, that would be my journey with nerves.
Yeah, for me, you know, when I was in my 20s and I was auditioning and that was in my world, I was crippled by nerves. Like, I would go in and before I went into the audition, this is obviously before self-tapes, it was everyone was better than me. Like, their singing voice was better, they could dance better, they looked better. It was, I just like made myself so small. And so then I'd go in there with no confidence and sing appallingly because the nerve just took over, you know, and it's taken me. I always say to everyone now, I was like, I wish I knew then what I know now, because I would be a different person. I would actually be able to have the ability to show off my talent because I could, you know, and it's exactly what you said. I used to put the people behind the desk. They basically were God, right? They basically were gods. And I was going up in front of them to, you know, see if I was worthy. And it's so sad because it was like my dream, but I really just ruined it because I allowed that nervous energy to rule it, you know.
And that was also as well, you know, one of the things out of that is that you got like that because it really mattered to you. You really cared about it. You wanted to succeed. And I think anybody, you know, going into that, it's about channeling that energy and learning how to do that. I think nowadays, when we first started out, you know, times have changed in the sense that there is a lot more information about how to channel those nerves into different ways. And like you said, I wish I knew then what I know now. That's such a perfect way of describing it.
Yeah. like the work that I've done on myself. And I think more than anything, and I discussed this in so many of the other episodes, it's like when I had self-worth, everything became a lot more easier. Life was so much easier. And it took me, basically mid-30s to go, oh, Nicola, you're all right, actually. You're actually kind. You're nice. You're just doing your best. There's nothing actually wrong with you. Whereas before that, it was like, I was my own worst critic, digging myself out all the time. And even though on paper I'd achieved these things, the mental battle to get there was just horrific.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy it.
And it just opens, like you said something really powerful there, is you made yourself so small. And we don't realize that when we are so hard on ourselves, we are opening ourselves up to reduce our talents, our confidence, our abilities, our passion, our love. Everything just becomes suppressed,
Yeah, exactly. And so, David, I've got one more final question. And this is the question that everybody is going to be, given at the end of our podcast. And that is, what advice would you give to your former self, to your 13-year-old David, who's there? If you could just whisper in his ear and say one thing or two things of advice, what would that be?
Don't worry. Don't worry. It's okay.
Oh, God, it's okay. Stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just don't worry. I spent so many years worrying. I spent so much of my childhood worrying. So I just say, don't worry.
Don't worry. And on that note, I love you. I'm so grateful that you have joined us. So much wisdom has just poured out of you. And I know that if I was at the beginning for sure of my performance journey, or actually in fact any kind of work journey, and I listened to this podcast, that I would feel like, you know what, I can do this, like one day at a time, take it step at a time. And if, I was listening to it and I was going through something, it's like, okay, cool. Like, just seek help. Like, nothing is too much trouble. There's no one, don't worry. Just don't worry. It's all going to be good. So, it is a pleasure.
That means a lot. Thank you. I'm proud of you. And thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to see this explode.
Thank you, my darling. And good luck with your last two performances of Buff. And I'm just predicting, just putting it out there, I just think this one-man show is going to go to a movie. Watch this space. I can feel it. Yeah. I can feel it.
Yes.
Love you. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for everybody listening to this podcast. It has been a pleasure, and we'll see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.